A very good evening to one and all. It was sometime in January 2011. I still remember that day vaguely, but for reasons I will be spelling out, that day will forever be etched in my memory. I had just returned home after a pre-board examination. I was in class 12, 17 years old, and I was just randomly surfing channels on the television, looking for some music channel and trying to unwind myself from the exam pressure. Suddenly, I just stopped at this Hindi news channel, which was showing this documentary on the Bhopal gas tragedy. And it was showing how the Bhopal gas tragedy, which left so many people dead and even many more people maimed in 1984, the survivors of that tragedy had not received compensation. I'm sure, friends, it happens with all of us occasionally. We all know that in our country there is widespread poverty. As I speak today, there are people dying on the streets. There might be people who will be facing various kinds of problems. But then there is that one small thing which clicks. And this is what had actually happened to me when I was watching that documentary. And there was a sudden impulse of collecting some money and sending it to Bhopal so that I can actually be contributing towards making a difference in the lives of a few people. So I ambitiously authored a letter and I kept a high target. It was high by my standards, it was rupees 10 lakhs. I decided that I needed to collect 10 lakh rupees and somehow send it to Bhopal. And when I was trying to keep that target, I was suddenly told that, all this is fine, you want to collect 10 lakh rupees, but have you thought of the per person contribution you are actually making? Because the victims were in thousands. Then I was told that, do you know anyone in Bhopal? Have you ever been there? And I very quickly realized that that idea was not going to materialize. Then I was told by well-meaning relatives and friends that, you're too young for things. You should wait. While I could concede that ideas needed better planning, what I was not willing to accept was this eternal wait for some Shubh Muhurat to do good things. And that is exactly the idea which I have carried on since January 2011 till date. While I worked on the planning aspect of things, and by June 2011, I had got together with a group of friends and started this Dehradun-based student activist group, making a difference by being the difference. The acronym of which is MAD by BTD. We call ourselves MAD. And the reason we call ourselves MAD is because we want to do more than just Facebook activism. We want to give youngsters in Dehradun a platform to do something about issues they passionately feel about. Over the previous 7 years, we have conducted a series of cleanup drives and awareness campaigns, food distribution activities, transforming dirty urine and poster-clad walls and painting beautiful messages on them. Over 40 such locations have been transformed. And all of this for us has been part-time work that has been coupled with pocket money-driven activism. It is very strange for us that very well-established organizations have often come to us and asked us, we're salaried, we're full-time, how is it that you manage this kind of intensity? How do you manage that kind of volunteer strength? And the answer to that, friends, has always been that there has been no management at all. Our structures are so informal that it might be unbelievable for some. And there has been this one underlying mantra behind all the work that MAD has been doing in these 7 years. That mantra has been this belief in the power of unadulterated goodness. It exists. Of course, if you will practice activism which is not driven by certificates or by the want of some grants, but by the sheer energy of doing good in society, of actually helping the environmental cause, and letting the bonus impact of such actions impact you personally and professionally, you will get a well-rounded profile. These aspects of MAD started making their way and started making an impact in the city. While MAD started growing in its own capacity, what also started happening was that I made my way into law school. I entered National Law University, Jodhpur, after giving the common law admission test. And at National Law University, Jodhpur, I noticed that the children over there, my peers, were more talented than me, were even more hardworking than me. But there were two observations I had about them. One was how much the spirit of conformity governed their lives. They would choose a field of law for specialization, not because they had a passion in it or they were interested in it. They chose that field of specialization simply because everybody was doing it. And even the best of the people at National Law University were subscribing to that belief. So that is one thing I started noticing. The second thing I noticed at National Law University, Jodhpur, was that a lot of my learned friends were very able social and political commentators. My social media timelines would be littered by their expert opinion on things. And then they would squabble with each other. They would fight. It could occasionally get harsh. But when after those discussions, I would edge them, why don't you do something about women empowerment? You feel so strongly about it. Let's get some data. Let's file a right to information application. We're all law students. Let's do this together. They're like, nah. When the likes and the hearts fade away, so does their interest. And that is where choices become so important. I always argued with them that why is it that we are restricting ourselves to this kind of commentary and not going ahead and following our passion? And then I realized something, that often what we learn in moral science when we're in school, follow your passion, do good to others, stand up to what is right, may get you high scores in those moral science classes. But at times in real life, we feel that they give us low scores in life. And that is possibly because we're looking at a very short term. These short-term low-hanging fruits are actually long-term poison. Because at the end of the day, they are making you hollow. One fine day you might have this realization that what is it that I have got by these underhand means or by not being the person I wanted to always be? And then we may have our own doubts. Nevertheless, when I was at National Law University, Jodhpur, I continued my activism in Dehradun. MAD, a brief of which I've already shared with you, continued its cleanup drives, its awareness campaigns, and by now, it had become this force in Dehradun which could mobilize thousands of youngsters and also push for policy change. So from being good children who were doing nice work in Dehradun, the policymakers now started thinking of us as these unrelenting pests who were after their lives and weren't letting them have their way with things. The manifestation of this came about with our entire campaign to revive Rispana river. So, Dehradun Valley is nestled in the Shivaliks, and there are two main river systems. It's Ganga on the east and Yamuna on the west. And the four eastern flowing tributaries of Ganga, which flow through Dehradun, are Rispana, Bindal, Suswa and Song. The Rispana river and the Bindal rivers, these two rivers in particular, today face extinction. And since 2014, in fact, this campaign started in June 2011 itself, but in 2014 we had this capacity to mobilize thousands together and make our demands in front of the government that we want an expert study to be undertaken to assess how can you bring back this river. And they looked at us very strangely. They always thought somebody was propping us because it was very unbelievable for them that kids of this age would actually be raising these questions. And that is where we got that confidence that it is not too late to start. We did well by starting early, and that is what we should always be doing. And that gave us more confidence. So finally, in June 2014, we could manage to persuade the central government to organize this study, which was conducted by the National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. And it assessed how Rispana River and Bindal rivers can be revived in Dehradun. And after that report was made public, it was a major victory because they actually called Rispana a river which should be perennial by its characteristics. And I still remember how that entire letter which had those terms of reference was drafted. For every word there was haggling. The Babu wanted to write, NIH will conduct a study, full stop. We said, please specify the contours of the study. Please name the places. Then he named the places. Then we said, please give them a time frame. So for every word there was haggling. They were like, oh, tum bacche ho, tum jante nahi ho. But then we stayed at it. We learned it the hard way through interactions with these netas and babus and got it our way. For the next 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, we started arguing for the implementation of this report. But that was not coming. Why? The elephant in the room. There was massive encroachment in the riverbeds of both Rispana and Bindal. And they were not just encroachments. They had been harvested in a particular way to win new elections, any party in power. So it became virtually impossible to deal with these challenges. But we were at it. We faced threats. And worse, I still remember this one episode when we filed a right to information application seeking some information about the catchment area of Rispana and Bindal. They wrote to me saying, we give answers only to Indian nationals. So they could question your nationality as well. So it was getting both funny and dangerous. And this was one of the challenges I started facing in the realm of being a social activist. Let's come back to law school for a bit. I would say by that time I had reached the 4th year of my law school, because everything is going very parallelly in my lives. My journey as a social activist as well as a law student. At law school, the fight was tougher because it was a fight against conformity. I am in my 4th year and my college's placement cell is determined to get every single person in my batch placed, almost regardless of whether they want placement or not. So they have this rank list ready and they send us an email saying if it were the other way around, it would have been easy for me because I wouldn't have sent them an email. But they wanted us to send them an email to say we are opting out. Now, in an environment where everybody wants to be at the top of that list, and when you are sitting on the top of that list, you are made to feel like a fool to be opting out of this process. But somehow I gathered the courage to opt out of that list, and the result was that I could focus in my 5th year on Dehradun again. And Dehradun was facing crucial challenges during that time. There was a very regressive cycle ban in Mussoorie. Cycling was banned in Mussoorie. Why? They said, cyclists are just going on and they're falling off the cliff. And it was very unbelievable. But then there was a taxi lobby which was at play. These were the reasons. Then there was a massive move to concretize the tea gardens of Doon Valley and build a smart city in the tea gardens of Doon Valley. All organizations got together. I could also play a role in the same. We opposed it and could do so successfully. And at the Rispana front, we managed to convince the Union Environment Minister, at that time it was Sri Prakash Javadekar, we could convince him that please include Rispana and Bindal as a part of the Ganga River Basin so that they're entitled to the enhanced levels of protection and the funding which comes under various schemes to rejuvenate River Ganga. That also came through. So I could focus my energies in my 5th year on these aspects. While academically, I finished law school as the topper of my batch among all streams and with an offer from the University of Oxford to pursue a postgraduate course, a fully funded postgraduate course as a Weidenfeld scholar with a full scholarship. The only message that I could draw after this kind of a journey, where I had a few support systems with great friends and a lot of detractors, was that people will always tell you, and at times you tell yourself, that's called self-rationalization, which is absolutely irrational, that this is not the time to do things. You should wait, that eternal wait for the Shubh Muhurat. You will be told in school that, just study hard because you've got to go to a good college. When you're in college, you will be told, study hard because you need a good job. When you're in your job, you will be told, study hard so that you can settle well and early. And when you've settled early, then you will probably have children. Then you will be told, and you will also feel that you should do well and work hard so that you take care of your children. Then children, then their children. And then of course, life has a final full stop waiting for all of us. And if you are fortunate, the full stop will come at the end of it. It can come anywhere in between, So that is exactly the consequence of this eternal wait, which accrue to all of us. And that is why this is one thing which I learned at the Global Scholars Symposium at the University of Cambridge. This one message reverberated all the time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. There is nobody who's going to come and tell you now is the time. The stars will not completely always keep aligning, and your astrologer won't always keep telling you things. You need to understand you are the one you've been waiting for. And then take those difficult decisions. Friends, why? Why does it become so difficult to take these decisions in life? It becomes difficult to take these decisions in life because the opportunity cost of following your passion starts going higher and higher and higher. When it was law school, it was a well-paying job and mad in Dehradun. When I was at Oxford, then it was an opportunity at the International Court of Justice, an opportunity to do another degree from one of these universities, to extend the scholarship, or work in Uttarakhand. So those stakes keep going high. And then how do you take that decision? That decision, friends, is a very personal decision. And somewhere, the answer lies within. If you are at one with the Almighty which is within you, if you are at one with your conscience, if you are happy doing what you are doing, if you feel thrill in surpassing your own expectations and pleasure in surpassing the expectations that others have from you, you will get that kick to keep following your passion. And it will give you a good night's sleep. It will give you an experience of living life to the fullest. Both things become very deficient in today's life. And to be very candid with you, these last few months when I was out of Oxford, and when finally, after all our efforts, Rispana rejuvenation is today a flagship project of the present state government. And we're going in all those meetings, the only one with black hair sitting in those rooms, meeting the topmost bureaucrats of your state, the topmost ministers in the cabinet of the state. And you're realizing they're asking their departments, give us the report on the river near this area, near that area. And then they look at us, you give us the genuine ground report. Almost, snubbing their own departments and their own babus. That gives you the kind of satisfaction that nothing can. And even practical experience. The one thing I have derived most amount of pride in is not my own qualifications or my own journey. It is the fact that I have got the opportunity to word some of these recommendation letters who've made their way to the topmost institutions in the country and abroad. So that kind of a satisfaction can come only when you're following your passion. And when you're at one with the Almighty within you. Otherwise, friends, and I'm moving towards my conclusion, otherwise, friends, there is this journey between the eye of idea, then there's a bridge, and then there is the eye of implementation. So there's this idea and there's this implementation. You keep waiting for your Murat, it's all gone. Then there's a bridge in between which will become I for infinite. So you will be on this infinite bridge and you will not be able to cross it. So if you don't want that bridge to be infinite, you need to make that journey quickly, and you need to make that journey, of course, with planning, but you need to give your heart a chance. At Oxford, I had said that I had got this opportunity to speak at a gathering where my university's vice-chancellor was present, and had very casually said, where there was reluctance today, there will be resilience tomorrow. I was alluding to the fact that there was a pull of the ivory towers of academia, that stay back. That was the reluctance I was alluding to. Stay back, work well, stay intellectually stimulated. But there was resilience at the same time, with the MAD movement gaining ground and Rispana rejuvenation becoming such an important part of the current state government's priority, after all these efforts, after all these meetings. So that was the resilience being alluded to. And today I can confidently say, where there is resilience today, there will be reward tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time, friends. Thank you.